and today I'm here to bring you my December wrap-up. I actually read books! October and November were unfortunately not very good reading months for me, but December wasn't so bad. I actually read 7 books in December, which was pretty impressive considering I read next to nothing the last 2 months. The first book that I read in the month of January was Mr. Dickens and His Carol by Samantha Silva. I actually have a spoiler-free speed review for this up already if you want to go check that out. But briefly, this one follows Charles Dickens. It's a reimagining of how he came to write A Christmas Carol. He was in the middle of a book that wasn't doing very well, so his publisher said, give us a Christmas story or you're going to lose everything you have, more or less. So he's feeling all Scrooge-like, and he reimagines himself as Scrooge, and it's a whole complicated story. I ended up giving this one a 3.25 stars. I did enjoy it. Compared to some of the other Christmas books that I have read, I enjoyed it a little bit less. It was very true to the Charles Dickens writing, and it was very true to A Christmas Carol, so I do think in that aspect the author did quite well, but in other aspects not so much. If you want to know more information, go check out the spoiler-free speed review. After finishing Mr. Dickens and His Carol, I was in the mood for more A Christmas Carol retellings because I was also in A Christmas Carol theater production. If you want more information about that, go check out the Vlogmas videos. I'll leave them down in the description box below. But it was a whole bunch of fun, so I was in a Christmas Carol mood. So I read The Afterlife of Holly Chase by Cynthia Hand. This one was really good. I also have a spoiler-free review for that one in case you're interested in it as well. This one is based around the concept of there being a Project Scrooge. Every year there is a new Scrooge that the Project Scrooge needs to try to save using the ghosts of Christmas past, present, and future. Each country has their own. Holly was a Project Scrooge, but she failed, and so when she dies, she ends up as the ghost of Christmas past, and she has to save a boy named Ethan. This book was so cute. It was definitely a fluffy contemporary YA book, but I really enjoyed it. Not so sure about how I felt about the ending yet. Either I loved it or I hated, so I just can't decide which one it was. But it was a really cute holiday read. If you are still in the mood for holiday reading, I would suggest go pick it up. And if not, put it on your TBR for next year because it was cute. It was a Christmas read. It was cute. I liked it. Next up, I read City Fallen Angels by Cassandra Clare. This is the 4th book to the Mortal Instruments series. I can't talk a whole lot about what this book is about because obviously it's 4th book in a series. Most everybody knows at least a little bit about the Shadowhunters world anyway. But this series, for me, I don't love it. I don't hate it. It's not my favorite. It's okay. I do enjoy it, so I'm continuing on with audiobooks. If I hadn't been listening to these on audiobooks, I may not have finished them because they're just not fantastic. They're very YA, they're very tropey, they're addicting. I do like them, so I don't know. I have a love-hate relationship. Anyway, this one got a 3.5 stars. Moving on, in the Christmassy theme, I went back and forth a little bit this month. I read A Court of Frost and Starlight by Sarah J. Maas. This is the 3.5 book in the A Court of Thorns and Roses series. This is the bridge book between the ACOTAR series and the new series that's coming out eventually. I went into this book thinking I wasn't going to like it. Why? Because I wasn't a huge fan of A Court of Wings and Ruin, and a lot of people said they didn't particularly like this one. So I had very low expectations going in, and I actually really loved it. I don't know if it's because I saved it for the winter and I'm reading Winter Solstice around the Christmas season, so I kind of had that holiday wintry vibe that people who were reading it in May or June whenever it came out didn't really have. Or maybe it was because I had such low expectations, but I did like it. It wasn't a hugely plot-centric book. It was definitely character-centric, but I liked it. It was just a fun read. It wasn't like the most fantastic book ever, but it was a fun read, and so I gave it a 5 stars. Next up for the Magical Readathon, Christmas Hogwarts edition, I finished Too Late by Colleen Hoover. I started this one in December, finished it during that read-along. This one is much darker than Colleen Hoover's other books. I would consider Colleen Hoover's other books more contemporary new adult. This one is definitely adult. It's very dark, very violent. This one follows a girl named Sloane, and she becomes involved with Asa, and Asa is a drug dealer. He's also rather abusive, and she meets Carter along the way. Carter is a undercover cop. It brings us through a whole bunch of scenarios with Carter and Sloane and Asa. I, on one hand, really like this book. Here's the thing about this book. It wasn't written to be a published book. It was more of Colleen Hoover's way of helping herself to give her something else to do when she comes into some kind of writer's block. So she was posting these books chapter by chapter as a free reading material for her fans. But the fans wanted a actual copy of the book, so she published it. So this book was written chapter-wise. It has like chapters, and then it has an epilogue, and then it has a prologue, and then it has an epilogue to the epilogue. I very much enjoyed the story as a whole. I didn't quite enjoy the formatting quite as much, but I can't be so hard on it because it wasn't meant to be a chronological book. The epilogue and the epilogue to the epilogue were really long, and they could have been a story, part of the story, I felt like, personally. But all in all, I really did enjoy it. Not as much as her other books. I gave it a 3.5 stars. For what it was a good story. It was definitely a heartbreaking story, and it was definitely a dark story. So if you have a hard time with violence, domestic violence, rape, I wouldn't suggest reading it. I just totally kicked my tripod. Anyway, also for the Magical Readathon, I read The Velveteen Rabbit by Marjorie Williams Bianio. I didn't mark this as read on Goodreads or anything because I've read this book so many times, it's not even funny. But this is one of my favorite childhood books, 5 stars, as usual. I love it. What more is there to say? And moving on with Immortal Instruments, I read book number 5, The City of Lost Souls by Cassandra Clare. This one I liked a little bit better than the last one, although I did find some things in this book a little bit too convenient for my liking, but it was a good book. It definitely set up for a good finale. I gave this one 3.5, 3.75 if I'm being lenient. Again, not terrible books, not great books. Then I read Sadie by Courtney Summers. This one was on my want to read list for quite a while now actually, and I needed a quick audiobook to read the last day of the year, so I picked up this one, and it follows a girl named Sadie. Sadie had a little sister named Maddie who was murdered, and Sadie goes missing. So you're following Sadie's journey, and you're following this journey of the people who are looking for her. I listened to this one, like I said, on audiobook, and it was on with the full cast, and it was really great. If you're looking for a good audiobook to read, I would suggest this one. I gave this book a 4.5 stars. There's a lot of trigger warnings in this book. There's trigger warnings for child abuse, for sexual abuse, for a whole bunch of stuff. Again, another darker read. I read a lot of darker reads during the holiday season. I don't know what's wrong with me, but I really enjoyed this one. It was a great read. I recommend it, and I especially recommend the audiobook. I also quickly wanted to mention a book that I am in the middle of, because as of December 31st, I was about 100 pages in, and that is Leaping Wolf by J.P. Harker. This is the second book to the Caledon saga. The first book, Wildcat, I have a whole spoiler-free review for. I can't talk to you a whole lot about this one, but basically, Wildcat is a sort of historical fiction, sort of fantasy combo. It's a story based on Iron Age Wales and Imperial Rome, and you can see those brief glimpses of history very clearly in this fantasy world. What I like about this one so far, especially the second book, is the magic system. I feel like I missed it, or I didn't pay attention to it, or I wasn't captured by it quite as much in the first book, because I was so captured by the history and the world building and the characters. But the magic is very nature based, and I think that's pretty cool. It's not anything that couldn't be out of the ordinary in the real world, if you know what I mean. Like, it's very realistic magic. I know I'm making myself sound like an idiot, but that's the best way that I can describe it. But anyway, it's a slow start. These are slow burning books, but I do really enjoy them. So if you are interested in supporting an indie author, I would suggest you go check out my spoiler-free review for Wildcat. It was, spoiler alert, one of my top 10 books of the year, so I am excited to get move on this one. Hoping I can be able to finish it in the next week or so, because I have other books that I want to read. So that's it for all of the books that I read in December. Let me know down below, what was your favorite book that you read in December? Because I feel like we all sort of cram in as many books as we can get in to get our numbers up higher in Goodreads. At least I do anyway. So let me know what your favorite book was that you read in December. If you enjoyed this video, give it a big thumbs up. If you have not yet, I would love it if you would subscribe. And I will see you in a new video soon. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.